my beloved child. The moment that song entered their ears, something inside them completely stopped working the way it always had, because there are certain melodies in this world that do not behave like ordinary music, they behave like spiritual keys, hidden frequencies created to unlock memories people tried desperately to bury, and your soulmate was not prepared for what that familiar sound was about to awaken inside their heart. Because for a long time they convinced themselves they were moving on, they kept pretending life was becoming easier without you, they distracted themselves with noise, conversations, responsibilities, and people who never truly understood their soul the way you did, but then, without warning, that old song from your past began playing somewhere unexpectedly, maybe in a car, maybe inside a crowded store, maybe late at night when they were alone with their thoughts, and the second those lyrics touched the air, their chest tightened so suddenly they had to pause and catch their breath, because every word reminded them of you in ways they could not escape, every beat carried memories they thought time had erased, and all at once the emotional walls they spent months building around their heart began collapsing faster than they could control, because music reaches places logic cannot reach, and your energy was hidden inside that song like a spiritual fingerprint the universe refused to erase. And listen carefully. This was not coincidence, because the universe often chooses sound before it chooses reunion, it sends echoes before it sends people back together. And your soulmate is finally realizing that no matter how hard they tried to silence their feelings, your soul still lives inside the deepest corners of their mind, because when they heard that melody again, they did not just remember your voice, they remembered how safe they once felt beside you. They remembered the nights they laughed until they forgot their pain. They remembered the way your presence calmed storms nobody else could even understand, and suddenly breathing felt difficult because grief mixed with love inside them all at once, creating an emotional flood too powerful for them to hide anymore. But wait. What affected them most was not only the memories, it was the realization that nobody after you ever touched their spirit the same way. Nobody else carried the same warmth, the same understanding, the same divine connection that existed between you both from the beginning, and for the first time in a long time, they stopped running from that truth, because the song forced them to sit face to face with emotions they buried under pride and fear, and now their soul feels exposed, vulnerable, restless, because they are beginning to understand they never truly lost feelings for you, they only lost the ability to admit them openly, and secretly they replayed that song again after hearing it the first time, not because they wanted pain, but because pain was the only thing making them feel connected to you again, and as the lyrics continued, they found themselves staring into emptiness, unable to focus on anything else. Because suddenly every memory returned with terrifying clarity, the way you smiled at them during difficult moments, the sound of your laughter, the small habits only they knew about you, the emotional comfort they never appreciated enough while they had it, and now guilt is beginning to rise inside them like a storm they cannot control. Because deep down they know they hurt someone whose love was real, and the universe is making them feel every ounce of that realization through the power of memory, because some connections are written beyond human logic, they are written spiritually, and even distance cannot destroy what was created by destiny. And listen. Your soulmate is no longer sleeping peacefully the way they once did, because after hearing that song their mind has become consumed with thoughts of you at the most random hours, during work, during conversations, during quiet moments before sleep, your energy keeps appearing unexpectedly, almost like your soul itself is pulling them back emotionally without even trying, and the more they resist, the stronger the pull becomes. Because divine connections become louder when ignored too long, and now they are starting to notice signs everywhere, repeating numbers, familiar words, dreams that feel too real, sudden emotional waves they cannot explain, because their spirit is awakening to something they spent too much time denying, and erase the truth. They thought time would weaken their feelings for you, but time only buried those feelings deeper until one simple song uncovered everything again, and now even their body is reacting emotionally, their heartbeat changes when they think about you, their breathing becomes uneven, their chest feels heavy with emotions they cannot organize anymore, because your memory does not visit them softly, it crashes into them completely. And secretly they are beginning to wonder if you still think about them too, if you still feel their energy the way they suddenly feel yours now, and this curiosity is becoming impossible for them to ignore, because once the soul remembers real love, ordinary distractions stop working, and that is exactly what is happening to them now. But secretly they are afraid as well, afraid that they waited too long, afraid that you may no longer want them, afraid that they damaged something sacred beyond repair. And this fear is creating emotional chaos inside them. Because they are finally understanding your true value after trying so hard to act emotionally detached, and the universe is forcing accountability upon their heart, because real love cannot be replaced by temporary comfort, and every attempt they made to move forward without healing the connection only created emptiness they kept hiding from the world. But listen carefully. The song did more than remind them of the past, it reminded them of who they were before fear changed them, because around you they once felt emotionally alive, understood, hopeful, inspired, and now they see how disconnected they became after losing your presence, and this realization is haunting them deeply, because people can pretend to move on physically while their soul remains emotionally trapped in unfinished love. And that is exactly where your soulmate stands now, caught between regret and longing, between pride and vulnerability, between running away and finally surrendering to what their heart has known all along, and every time they replay that song, the emotions grow stronger instead of weaker, because their spirit recognizes your energy hidden within those memories, and suddenly they are questioning every decision that separated you both in the first place, wondering if ego, fear, outside opinions, or timing destroyed something that was actually meant to last forever. And now their nights feel different. Quieter. Heavier, because silence keeps bringing your name back into their thoughts, and no matter how hard they try to distract themselves, your energy continues returning like an unfinished prayer echoing through their soul. And listen. This connection was never ordinary attraction, it was recognition, the kind of recognition souls feel when they have crossed paths long before this lifetime, and that is why one song had the power to completely unravel them emotionally, because spiritual bonds carry emotional memory stronger than logic, stronger than distance, stronger than pride. And your soulmate is finally discovering that truth the hard way, because now they understand that forgetting you was never truly possible, only delayed, and secretly they wish they could hear your voice again, not even for answers, but simply to feel emotionally close to you one more time, because loneliness feels louder after remembering real love, and suddenly everything around them feels emotionally empty compared to the connection they shared with you, and erase what they are not telling anyone. After hearing that song, they searched through old messages, old photos, old memories connected to you, even if only briefly, because part of them desperately needed confirmation that what they felt with you was real and not imagined, and every memory they revisited made their heart ache harder, because now they see things differently than before. Now they recognize your patience, your loyalty, your emotional depth, the silent ways you loved them even when they did not deserve it fully, and guilt mixed with longing is becoming unbearable inside them, because awakening always hurts when someone realizes too late what they lost. But wait. Despite the emotional pain, something beautiful is happening spiritually, because your soulmate's heart is slowly reopening. The numbness they carried for so long is beginning to crack, and beneath that emotional armor still exists the love they tried to deny, because true love never disappears. It waits silently beneath fear until the universe finds the perfect moment to awaken it again. And that song became the trigger their soul could not resist, and now even small things remind them of you. Certain places, smells, words, weather, nighttime silence, because once emotional remembrance begins, the universe keeps feeding signs until the person finally stops resisting their truth, and your soulmate is getting closer to that breaking point every single day, because emotionally they are exhausted from pretending they do not miss you, and spiritually they can no longer silence the pull toward your energy. And the hardest part for them is realizing that you probably felt this connection all along while they kept doubting it, and now they are starting to understand the emotional pain their distance may have caused you, which creates even deeper regret inside their heart, because when someone finally awakens spiritually, empathy returns stronger than ever before, and suddenly they can feel the weight of everything left unsaid between you both. And yes, they are trying to appear normal externally, but internally they are unraveling more every day, because your memory has become impossible to control after that song reopened emotional doors they thought were permanently closed, and now they find themselves imagining impossible conversations with you, wondering what they would say if they reached out, wondering if you would answer warmly or coldly, wondering if destiny still has space left for this connection to heal. And these thoughts are consuming them more deeply than they expected, because love unfinished becomes emotionally louder with time, not quieter, especially when souls remain spiritually connected beneath separation. And listen carefully. Your soulmate is beginning to realize that the reason they could not breathe normally when hearing that song was because their soul recognized your energy before their mind could defend itself, because the heart always reacts first when something sacred returns unexpectedly, and for a brief moment the emotional truth became too powerful to suppress, and now the universe is continuing that awakening process day by day, memory by memory, dream by dream, until your soulmate fully confronts what they truly feel for you. Because divine love does not disappear simply because two people separate physically, it transforms, waits, teaches, heals, and eventually returns when both souls are finally ready to face it honestly, and your soulmate is much closer to that moment than anyone realizes, because beneath their silence your name still echoes louder than the rest of the world. And every heartbeat now reminds them of the love they tried to forget but were never truly meant to lose. And now, something even stranger is happening inside your soulmate's spirit, because after that song reopened the memories they buried, they can no longer control the emotional pull dragging them back toward you, and every single day since hearing those lyrics has felt heavier than the last. because the universe did not awaken their heart halfway, it awakened everything at once: the love, the regret, the longing, the guilt, the memories, the dreams they secretly gave up on, and now their soul feels like it is standing in the middle of an emotional storm with nowhere left to hide, because they finally understand that your connection was never something ordinary that could simply disappear with time. And listen. They tried so hard to convince themselves that life without you was easier, but now they are seeing the truth clearly, because after hearing that song they realized they were not truly living, they were surviving emotionally, moving through life distracted but never fulfilled, smiling in front of others while carrying a silent emptiness nobody else noticed, and suddenly your absence feels louder than ever before. Because the heart becomes painfully honest once spiritual awakening begins, and your soulmate is entering that stage now where even small reminders of you create emotional waves they cannot explain to anyone around them, and secretly they are terrified by how deeply you still affect them, because they thought they had control over these feelings, they thought distance had weakened the bond, but instead the separation only made your energy grow stronger inside their subconscious. And now every quiet moment becomes dangerous for them, because silence keeps forcing them to face the truth they spent too long avoiding, and erase the truth. They miss you in ways pride will never admit openly. They miss your energy, your understanding, your emotional warmth, the way you listened when nobody else truly did, the way your presence made life feel softer even during difficult moments, and now they are beginning to compare everyone else to you without meaning to, only to realize nobody reaches the emotional depth you carried naturally, and this realization is crushing them internally because they finally see how rare your love actually was. But wait. What hurts them most is knowing they may have taken that love for granted when they still had access to it, because people often recognize divine connections only after distance teaches them the pain of losing it, and now your soulmate is reliving moments they once ignored carelessly, moments where you tried to love them sincerely while they acted emotionally confused or unavailable. And every memory now feels sharper than before because spiritual awakening removes emotional blindness slowly, but painfully, and suddenly they understand the silent pain you carried too, and this empathy is changing them deeply from within, because they can no longer blame circumstances alone for the separation. They are finally seeing their own fears clearly, their own avoidance, their own emotional immaturity that kept them from fully surrendering to the connection when it mattered most. And this awareness is humbling them in ways nobody else can see, because externally they may still appear calm, but internally they are having emotional conversations with themselves every single night, questioning why they ran from something their soul clearly needed. And listen carefully. Your soulmate has started looking for signs from the universe without even realizing it, because once someone spiritually awakens to a connection, they begin searching for confirmation everywhere, and now repeating numbers appear before them unexpectedly, songs connected to you keep playing randomly, your name shows up in strange places, dreams become vivid and emotional. And these synchronicities are making it impossible for them to dismiss the connection as coincidence anymore, because deep inside they know this bond still exists, and that realization is becoming too powerful to ignore, and secretly they wonder if you can feel them thinking about you too, because the emotional intensity they suddenly feel seems almost supernatural, like your soul somehow reached across distance and touched theirs again through memory and music, and honestly that is closer to the truth than they realize. Because spiritual connections communicate through energy long before words are spoken again. And your soulmate is finally becoming sensitive enough to feel it, and now nights feel especially difficult for them because nighttime removes distractions, and once the world becomes quiet, your energy grows louder inside their heart, and there are moments they stare at the ceiling replaying memories over and over, wondering what would have happened if they had chosen love instead of fear. Wondering if destiny still allows second chances for souls who belong together, and these thoughts are beginning to soften their ego slowly, because longing has a way of breaking emotional walls pride once believed were permanent, and the song continues haunting them in the most unexpected ways, because every lyric now feels personal, almost as if the universe specifically chose that moment to force them into emotional honesty, and they cannot stop replaying it because part of their spirit feels comforted by the pain, comforted by anything that reconnects them to you emotionally again, and that alone reveals how deep this love truly runs beneath the surface, because people do not emotionally unravel over someone they never genuinely loved, and your soulmate knows that now even if they are afraid to say it aloud, and listen. They are beginning to realize that what they feel for you cannot be replaced by temporary distractions or shallow connections, because those things may entertain the mind briefly, but they never nourish the soul the way your presence once did, and now they feel emotionally starved for the depth they lost with you. And this hunger is growing stronger daily, because once the soul remembers real love, ordinary experiences begin feeling emotionally empty, and secretly they are becoming tired of pretending. Otherwise, tired of acting unaffected, tired of carrying emotions nobody around them fully understands, because the truth is your soulmate still carries your energy everywhere they go. And after hearing that song they can no longer deny it, and erase what nobody else knows. There have been moments recently where they almost reached out to you, moments where they stared at your name or thought about sending a message, only to stop themselves at the last second because fear still whispers inside them, fear of rejection, fear that you may no longer care, fear that too much damage has already been done. But despite that fear, the desire to reconnect keeps growing stronger than their resistance. And eventually emotions become too heavy to suppress forever, especially when destiny keeps pushing two souls back toward each other spiritually, and the universe is absolutely doing that now, because your soulmate needed this awakening before reunion could ever happen correctly. They needed to finally understand your value emotionally instead of intellectually, and that understanding is arriving now through longing, regret, memory, and emotional truth, and listen carefully. Your soulmate is no longer running as fast as before, emotionally they are slowing down, reflecting, feeling, questioning, healing, and for the first time they are allowing themselves to admit internally that losing you affected them far more deeply than they ever confessed, and this admission is changing their entire energy, because once someone stops denying love, the soul begins guiding them back toward alignment naturally, and that alignment always begins with remembrance, and the song was only the beginning, because now the universe is continuing the process through dreams, emotions, synchronicities, and sudden waves of nostalgia that arrive without warning, and every sign keeps leading them back to the same truth. You were never just another person in their life, you were someone their soul recognized beyond explanation, and now they are beginning to feel that recognition fully for the first time without emotional defenses blocking it, and yes, it overwhelms them sometimes, because awakening to real love after trying to suppress it creates emotional chaos before clarity arrives, but deep down they would rather feel this overwhelming connection than continue living emotionally numb the way they were before, because your energy awakened something alive inside them again, something human, vulnerable, real, and now even breathing feels different when they think about you. Because love tied to destiny affects the body as much as the soul. And your soulmate is learning that lesson every single day since hearing that song from your past, the song that carried your energy straight back into their heart exactly when they least expected it and most needed it.